Listen, real talk? I did not expect to love X-Men 97, a revival of the 90s X-Men cartoon almost 30 years after it ended, being one of the best animated shows Marvel Animation, hell, Marvel themselves would ever produce? That sounds like a fairy tale, a childhood dream come true. Not for me, I didn't watch the old show back when it came out. I wasn't even alive. I was like nothing. X-Men 97, simply put, is a miracle, and that's coming from a not so die-hard X-Men fan. The show has impressed me so much, in fact, that I wanted to talk about why I think it works, and how it can pave the way for future Marvel animated projects. But first, what did you think about X-Men 97? Love it? Hate it? Indifferent? Let me know in the comments down below. I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions. Before the show came out, I was the opposite of on board. After waiting in anticipation for Marvel to finally get their animation swing back after the highs of Spectacular Spider-Man and Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, the first project announced being an attempt to continue the old X-Men cartoon instead of something new irked me. Why tie yourself to something old when you can explore new worlds and stories? As more and more information came out, I started to just not care. I naively thought the 3D animation would be too jarring, and the typical conflicting tones and half-baked ideas that have plagued recent Marvel outings would rear its ugly head on the X-Men. And not only the X-Men, the one almost everyone knows, fan or not. That classic guitar riff in the intro has been imprinted on every child up until adulthood who grew up with it. And to see it potentially come back a lesser version of what it once was, a quick cash grab banking on nostalgia to boost streaming numbers on a slowly dying business model, sounds like a recipe for disaster. Yet, here we are. The show isn't perfect, keep in mind, but most of my time with X-Men 97 is the most engaged I've been in a Marvel superhero show since Daredevil. Part of what makes the show work is that X-Men 97 is an ensemble show first and foremost. No Wolverine and the X-Men shit here, no shoving characters aside for the sake of highlighting the most popular. It's what the X-Men have always been, what they should be. A group of outsiders, of freaks, of mutants, banding together under the common cause of protecting their kind and bridging the gap between two different worlds while managing their own. I cannot tell you how happy I was when the first scene in episode 1 was not only the X-Men in action, but Cyclops in action. Outside the comics, Scott Summers has been thrown aside, made less important in the name of toy sales and brand recognition. Here, however, he's given the respect he deserves and then some. Everyone pretty much is given time to shine. Wolverine, Storm, Beast, Jean Grey, Nightcrawler, Rogue, Gambit, Magneto, Professor X, even Morph. Somehow, all the X-Men characters, new and old to the series, for the most part are giving a chance to show off why their stories are so beloved and revered. That story being the struggle for survival, to get mutant kind to be accepted by humanity. The whole point of X-Men stories is to shine a light on civil rights movements, a voice to the marginalized groups who fight to be equals with the rest of the world. The classic show, to its credit, understood this and tried its best to tell it while also being a children's program. It still somehow has the best adaptation of the Dark Phoenix saga. They tried twice. And this show is still better. And it's not even that hard. I don't know how they messed it up. In 97, however, that classic story was given a facelift. How the X-Men would continue their mission now that their leader was presumed dead, the conflicts became more muddy, darker, and all too real. It's not overtly nihilistic. There's an episode that's honestly an excuse to homage the X-Men arcade game, but the plot of the show feels like it's aged more with the audience. The tone much more serious, while still keeping in line with its colorful camp look. The X-Men go through a lot of loss and suffering, but never to the point of where the melodrama becomes overdramatic. 97 feels less like a new coat of paint on an old show, but an extension of where it left off. The creative team understood that they couldn't just continue the show itself without understanding why it worked, why it didn't work, and how it could advance and still be relevant now. A delicate balancing act of having fun while also adapting and telling more mature stories. Another thing that works about 97 is the animation style. Obviously the show implements 3D animation, but I was shocked at how close it maintained to the colors and feel of the classic show. Again, 97 feels like it's just picking up where the OG left off, this time with a new, more high definition look. Rewatching the first 2 seasons of the classic show before jumping into 97, it only really took me like 5 minutes before I got used to the new style. But now I can't imagine the show without it. If I had to critique the show, some adaptation changes feel a bit confusing. I'm not sure why with Sunspot they decided to omit his backstory where he was attacked because of his race as opposed to being a mutant. I get what they were going for with his mother, but still. Also, maybe this is just a me thing, but while I love how obvious it is regarding Magneto as a character and how being a Holocaust survivor and a mutant would shape his distrust in the rest of the world accepting his kind, I do wish they wouldn't dance around it and actually name drop the Holocaust. You can only go so far with show don't tell before you forget what you're telling or the audience not understanding it. Those are the 2 major points of critiques with with me, with minor ones being something like the show not airing on a Saturday but a Wednesday. On one hand, I miss those Saturday morning cartoons, but on the other hand, watching Genosha fall and seeing all the dead mutants and awful stuff going on a Saturday morning would have ruined my day, so maybe the middle of the week release was a good idea. Also, I still have no idea how Morph's powers work now. I thought they would just be changing his physical appearance and not keeping the power set, but apparently they can just transform to the person and keep their powers. Makes sense from a production standpoint having these be fun cameos, but isn't Morph now just the most OP X-Men of all time? Am I missing something? Even when it is not operating at its best, the show is a fun time, and I truly cannot wait for more seasons. The quality of the show proves in my eyes that animation is the superior format for adapting superheroes. The technical leaps made in the world of digital effects in the MCU plateaued in my eyes after Rocket Raccoon and Thanos. In animation, you can get away with so much more, and just feels like the natural extension of their comic book origins. I hope we get a Spider-Man 98, a continuation of Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, or even new animated projects like Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, or another Marvel character getting a spotlight. DC for the longest time was the only consistent place where they made animated content, and I think with Marvel Animation now given its own intro and seemingly is more important in the eyes of the company with the animated show slated so far, I hope this is a sign for greater things to come.